Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alicia from Alicia Be Creative, and today we are doing yet another tumbler tutorial, and we are actually going to be incorporating some new vinyls today, which I'm really excited to share with you. So Teck Wrap Crafts sent me a amazing bundle of their vinyls that they wanted me to test out and try, and I'm so excited to show you all the different patterns and vinyls that I received in this box, as well as show you specifically how simple and easy it is to use them in your crafts. So additionally, today we're also going to be using a brand new vinyl as part of one of my next two collections in collaboration with Vinyl Gallery. We're going to be using one of the patterns from my second collection, and I'm going to be showing you how I created this sort of three colored block incorporating pattern vinyl design. And so I'm really excited to show you guys how this turns out and how simple and easy it is to use Teck Wrap Craft Vinyl as well for all of the additional vinyl elements that I add to this tumbler. So of course, everything I use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked down in the description box down below. Of course, be sure to check that out for discount codes as well as links to all of my social media. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial. So of course, first things first, I want to show you all the amazing vinyls that I received from Teck Wrap Crafts. They sent me a huge box of vinyl, and I honestly thought they were only going to send me like a few rolls of a couple different colors. So I was pleasantly surprised to see all of these amazing vinyls in this package. So the first thing, which I thought was so stinking cute, is this little like cellophane colored bag that has like different pieces that you can use for weeding your vinyl. So it had like a pen for weeding vinyl, tweezers, came with a squeegee tool, and it's just so cute that you can put in this little container. So these are all the vinyls that I received in the package, and I had a really hard time like deciding what colors I wanted to use and what design I wanted to do. So I spent actually a lot of time after looking through all of the vinyl that I was sent and trying to decide like what colors I wanted to use for a design idea in mind. So after kind of going through everything, I decided that I was going to stick with kind of this shimmer white, shimmer black, and a pretty and pink color. So after kind of making the decision to kind of pull those out, I decided to kind of grab those, and ironically, I happen to have a brand new pattern vinyl that has just launched that matches perfectly. So of course, as I'm thinking through my design, we're going to get our cup prepped. So this is a 32-ounce plump from the Steel Magnolia company. I've just sanded that with a 60 grit sanding block, and I'm just going to clean that off with some rubbing alcohol and get this all cleaned up and ready for prep work. So these are all the elements that I'm going to be using today for this design. So I have my 3 glitter colors, which we'll talk about in a bit, and then I have my 3 Teck Wrap Craft vinyls, and then of course my brand new pattern vinyl, which just matches perfectly with the Teck Wrap Craft vinyl that I was sent. So of course we're going to be starting off with this large bow pattern from my second collection in collaboration with Vinyl Gallery, and I'm going to do kind of like a 3-block kind of style tumbler today. Not something I've done on my channel before. I've done like stripes and things, but I haven't kind of done this color block technique that I can think of in quite a while actually. But it's such a pretty and very simplistic design, but really there's a lot of different style ideas and designs that you can kind of put together in order to give this kind of very simple design a really beautiful look. So I'm cutting off a really large section of this pattern vinyl here. So I wanted to cut off a larger section that would establish as much of the bows and stars in the pattern as possible. So that was kind of my game plan going into this. So I kind of chose that really large center area that had 3 bows kind of right in the middle. That way I wasn't cutting off too many bows. And now I'm just going to size this to just kind of fit the area that I'm going to be using. So I've sized that and just trimmed everything up with my paper cutter, and now we're going to go ahead and get this applied. I want to make sure that this is going to fit obviously nicely all the way around the center of the cup, and I'm not really going to measure as far as how far up or down I want it. I know I want it smack dab in the middle, so we're going to do a little bit of guessing here and just assume that this is a bit of the middle. So using my cup cradle rather to kind of get myself set up here so I can keep everything nice and steady while I am attempting to wrap this vinyl on here, I'm going to double check to make sure that everything is going to match all the way around, and then cut off a little piece of that backing, as you guys have seen me do full wrap tumblers before, and just begin by placing that first adhesive section there. And then I'm just going to use my fingers and a squeegee tool and just guide this vinyl right onto the tumbler, and just pulling back on the vinyl if I get any bubbles or wrinkles that I need to fix. But really a super seamless and pretty easy kind of application of this vinyl right in the center section of this tumbler. So once I've gotten that all the way around, I'm going to cut off the little bit of excess that I have there. So I just like to drag my fingernail along the seam, and then I am going to cut around this little star here. So completely optional. I just wanted to keep that star as part of the vinyl, so I actually cut around it in order to keep it part of the vinyl. It will overlap and be on top of a bow, but I'm okay with that. I just thought it would look a little bit weird if I had cut through that star. It just would look very much like there was, you know, a seam or a line straight through that, if that makes sense. So after I've gotten that cleaned up, I am good to get this taped off, because we are going to move into getting this spray painted for our two sections that are going to be glitter. So now that I have the vinyl on, the next thing I'm going to do is we are going to take some painter's tape and a little bit of some plastic wrap to get this all taped off and covered up. That way we can get this bad boy spray painted. So while I'm waiting for my spray paint to dry, I'm going to mix up a couple of glitters for what will go over my pink base here. So I have Chit Chat, which is a matte glitter from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I'm going to mix that with a little bit of Fairy Dust, which is 4K glitter, which is from Vinyl Gallery. So I'm just going to mix up kind of equal portions here, and this is going to make that pink glitter really sparkle by adding that really fine dust of that white glitter into that pink mixture. This is the perfect pink, and I needed it to sparkle, so adding Fairy Dust really gives it that extra sparkle and shine that I am going for. So here's what that custom mix looks like, and we're going to get this applied. So I did remove the plastic wrap, but I am going to keep the tape there, and that's just going to help me make sure that while I am gluing and adhering my glitter, that I don't get any glitter on top of my vinyl here. So we're going to go in with a little bit of Mod Podge as our glue adhesive here for our glitter, and I'm just going to put a fine sort of coat of this Mod Podge on my pink section, which is what I'll start with. You can certainly start with whichever section you prefer. I like to start with my lighter colors when I'm using a dark color like black, because I want to make sure I don't contaminate my lighter colored glitter by any means, but completely up to you. There's enough space here where you could really work with it and make sure that you don't contaminate your glitters if you're worried about that. So I'm going to do just that fine coat there, and then we're going to go in with that custom mix that we made, and we're going to literally cover this entire section with this beautiful mix of Chit Chat and Fairy Dust. I just love how beautifully sparkly this all is. I mean, you guys know my love of glitter. It is a true love of glitter, and oh gosh, I love being able to make cute little custom mixes that just match and pull everything together. So we're going to move on to the black section next. And for this section, we're going to be using Shades. So Shades is from my Aisha Creations, and it looks, when you're looking at the bottle, I think I've told you guys this before, when you're looking at the bottle, it looks as if it's a silver glitter, but it's actually a black glitter. And I love it because it sparkles under epoxy. It's got like a really fine like mica in the black glitter mixed in with the black glitter. So it's a beautiful, beautiful sparkle and shine under epoxy. As you guys know, when you're using typical all black glitters, you don't always get that sparkle or shine. It can look very dull under epoxy, but I love Shades because Shades has that mica powder within it, and it just looks absolutely beautiful under epoxy. It does kick up a lot of the mica dust though, that I will tell you. I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera, but there literally was fine mica flying all over my face when I was done and all over my tabletop. So something to keep in mind, certainly if you're grabbing up Shades. It does get a little bit messy, but it's so beautiful and so worth it. So I'm just going to clean up my area here. I will let that glitter dry, the glue I should say, for about an hour or so before I put it under epoxy. I am obviously going to also remove the tape and tap off any excess here. So removing the tape here, then I'll let the glue completely dry. After I've let the glue dry, I am going to brush off with just a dry chip brush any excess glitter, and then I'm going to spray seal this. I want to make sure that when I go to apply my coats of epoxy that I do not get any glitter on my vinyl or any contamination of glitter into glitter areas. So I'm going to spray seal this 2 times before I put it under 2 coats of epoxy so that it's smooth and ready for decals. So while we're waiting for our epoxy to dry or cure, I'm going to show you just a little bit of kind of the Cricut Design Space work that I did. So I wasn't really sure going into this, other than the colors that I was really trying to capture in the pattern vinyl I was going to be using, what my design would look like. So I decided that I wanted to make this look like a present, so like a wrapped gift, if that made sense. So because bows is kind of the theme of this, I'm really going to be incorporating a lot of bow elements into the decals here. So I got this large bow from Creative Fabrica. This was the one that I selected. It comes with a lot of different options, and I chose kind of the larger bow there because it looked the most like what would be on top of a gift wrapped present, if you will. And so I sized the largest bow to be about 4 inches wide, and that defaults to like 4.37 in height, I believe. And I'm going to create an offset of 0.083 that is going to be a pink sort of offset of that white bow there. So then I've selected a rectangle, and we're going to create like the ribbon stripes that you'd see on a present. So I am going to create a rectangle that is about 1.12 inches wide. And then the height is going to be 10.5 because that's the length of my cup. So I want to make sure that it's going to reach from top to bottom of the cup. And then I am going to create an offset of this as well. And it's going to look exactly like my bow pattern does. So the offset will be pink and the front, main section will remain white. So once I've created my offset, I'm going to select both, and then I am going to duplicate it because I need a vertical strip, and then I also need a horizontal strip to go around the center that's going to go right under that large bow there. So once I've gotten those pieces kind of assembled, I just assemble it to make sure that everything looks right. So I just kind of twist everything and make sure that it's going to look okay on the tumbler, and make sure that like there aren't sections that look too wide or too weird. I just want to make sure that all together, once it's on the cup, that I can envision it and it looks exactly how I want it to look. So once I've done that, I have already put in my canvas 2 bows that are sized to be about less than an inch. It's like 0.75. So it was less than an inch of these bows, and I put one as a black and then one as pink because those are the colors that we're going to be using. I'm going to duplicate each of those 10 times. I figured that would be more than enough to get me a nice bow pattern along the top and bottom glitter sections. And then I also decided to incorporate stars because there's a lot of stars within the pattern vinyl that I have. And so I decided to put together just little small stars, which were about 1/2 inch big, and I decided to make about 20 of those because I figured I would figure out how I could assemble them in the pattern. So once I'm ready to get this into Cricut Design Space, or to cut this rather, I do make sure to cut this on the textured metallic vinyl setting, and I chose to cut this at the more setting, like more pressure. That seems to be what worked the best. I did go back and forth with the black shimmer vinyl and have to cut the bows out a couple of times in order to figure out which was going to be the best to use. I started with the glitter vinyl setting, but that didn't really work to the best that I wanted it to. It didn't cut through, and I struggled a bit to try and get some of the pieces weeded. So I switched the default or the custom setting to be the metallic, textured metallic setting with more pressure, and that seemed to be what worked the best with those 2 shimmer vinyls. So those are glitter vinyls, and they have a really smooth surface on the top, but they're a little bit thicker than the pink vinyl that I'm using here, which is pretty in pink. So now you're just watching me kind of weed all of this vinyl. I will say that it was really, really easy once I figured out the cut setting to get this weeded really quickly. The bows, the smaller bows, I expected to give me a little bit of a hassle because they're smaller pieces, but really I was able to get this weeded in absolutely no time, and now we can go ahead and start to get this stuff applied. So my cup is pretty smooth after 2 coats of epoxy. My first coat was about 30 mLs and my second coat was about 20 mLs of my KS resin liquidy split. And now that it's pretty smooth, we're going to do a bit of sanding. So my cup has been sitting on my turner for over 24 hours. And so because of that, I am going to sand the entire cup. So of course you guys know, as I always do, even though sanding is the most dreaded part, we got to focus on those rims, making sure that I have that fine line of stainless steel up at the top so that I have a great point of adhesion for my final coats of epoxy, and then focusing on this bottom edge. Because Steel Magnolia cups have that kind of sharp edge, you do want to pay a little bit of close attention to the bottom, as this sort of edge area does get a bit rough, and if you don't sand that area, you're going to have those kind of bumps and rough edges through all of your coats. So once I've gotten those 2 sections sanded, I am going to go and sand the entire cup with a 60 grit sanding block. Just a nice kind of even sand all the way around the cup, and this is just going to scuff up the surface so that when I do go into my next coats of epoxy, I have something for the epoxy to adhere to, since my epoxy at this point has been fully cured. So I'm going to clean that off camera with a little bit of 91% rubbing alcohol, and now we can get into applying all of the decals onto our cup. All right, so we're gonna get our decals applied, and so I'm gonna start with the ribbon strips of vinyl. I'm gonna place those first. So I'm gonna start with the vertical strip of the Pretty in Pink Teck Wrap Vinyl first. I just felt like it would be easiest to apply that first and then be able to figure out where my middle point of my cup is to be able to do that center strip of the Pretty in Pink as well. I'm gonna cut off a little bit of the excess down at the bottom. I had a little bit too much, so cut off the excess there, and then we're gonna go in with that second ribbon strip. So again, I am kind of eyeballing this a little bit in order to determine the midpoint of my cup, but I think everything turned out pretty well. I am going to overlap that a little bit over that vertical strip, and that's just to make sure that everything kind of lines up, and then I'll cut off all the excess that I have there right at those seams. So once I've gotten that applied, I now can move into the white shimmer pieces, which is the glitter vinyl from Teck Wrap Crafts, to get those applied directly on top of those center and horizontal ribbon stripes we have going on. So you totally could kind of layer these together first and then apply them, but because for me the glitter vinyl, the shimmer white and the shimmer black, they're much thicker vinyls, I knew that I might have a little bit of an issue and hassle if I tried to do this with it layered. So this is why I decided to kind of layer it as I go, as opposed to layering it beforehand and then wrapping it around the cup. So same kind of idea that I did when I put the horizontal and vertical strips on the first time. I'm just going to start with the vertical strip, and then I'll go in with the horizontal strip next, and then cut off any excess that overlaps that middle section there. So as soon as I'm done with this section, I'm going to move into the remainder pieces of the vinyl here. So I am going to add a little bit of washi tape to the sections that separate the glitter and the vinyl. So I just have a white washi tape that I'm going to use, and those are going to be my lines that separate my glitter from vinyl in the pink section and in the black section. Okay, and so now we're going to be applying the pattern that I'm going to create with the bows and stars that I cut in the 3 vinyls that I use from Teck Wrap Crafts. So Teck Wrap Craft also sent me some of their transfer sheets or transfer vinyl, transfer paper. I don't know why I'm having an issue figuring out what to call that, but the little transfer stickies to be able to apply this vinyl. So I figured I would also try that out too. I typically don't have like a favorite transfer tape sort of brand, if you will. I typically just purchase something off Amazon that works best for me and usually go with it. So I'm really interested to try this and tell you guys how this also worked out for me as well. So I'm going to start with the pink section of the tumbler. So the pink glittered section here, and I'm going to create a pattern. So when I originally went into this design, I didn't have an idea as far as what the pattern was going to look like on those glittered areas. I just had decided that I was going to incorporate bows of some sort and threw in the stars because it also matched the bow pattern that is part of my vinyl collection. So I am going to sort of hand place these, or place these one by one on the tumbler and start to just create my own pattern. So I just decided to do a very simple pattern with bows so like 2 rows of bows at different heights and sort of scattered, if you will, kind of one, almost like a zigzag. So like I'm going to place one bow here, and then I'm going to grab the next bow and I'm going to place it slightly to the left but lower, so another row of them, so like a staggered line of 2 rows of bows, if that makes sense. So of course I'm not going to make you sit through this whole thing, but I am going to show you kind of the speed session of me applying these patterns. And so I just did the bow lines, and then I went back and hand placed the stars in between those open sections and did the exact same pattern and design for the bottom portion of the cup. Now in hindsight, if I had an idea in mind, I could have put this together in Cricut Design Space and then just done a wrap of this entire pattern, but because I didn't have that idea originally, being able to hand place it really helped me see the pattern that I was trying to create, and I was able to do that very simply and easy with just using the Teck Wrap Craft transfer paper. So after I applied my bow decals, I did put my cup back on the turner for another coat of epoxy. And the reason why I did so before applying this center bow here is because I didn't want any of the creases or lines from the 2 ribbon sections we created below to show through these top layers. So putting that layer of epoxy in between really helped to make sure that I had a nice smooth surface to be able to apply the final pieces of decal work to this cup. So I'm going to start again with that pretty and pink color that I have cut out of this bow template, which is the offset of the original bow design. And I'm going to place that right over where the cross section of those 2 faux ribbon sections meet. And then I am going to take my transfer paper, or my transfer tape from Teck Wrap Crafts, and I'm going to apply this bow section on top of this offset here. So again, using the Teck Wrap Craft transfer tape was just as easy as using the transfer tape that I have been working with. I do know, and I did notice, that the Teck Wrap Craft transfer tape is a bit thinner, which actually is a little bit easier to work with than the thicker paper that I typically use. And definitely it was really super easy to get these glittered vinyl pieces up off the backing. I know that sometimes glitter vinyl can really be a big pain in the butt sometimes when it comes to getting it to remove off of the background. So the Teck Wrap Craft transfer tape really did make it super simple. So I'm just going to apply this top layer of the bow using the hinge method, which you guys have seen me do before. I'm then just going to smooth this decal out and make sure that I don't have any air bubbles or any creases or anything stuck under that vinyl before I remove the transfer tape off the top. So as soon as I am done smoothing everything out, I've removed the transfer tape. I'm going to give it one good look over, make sure I don't have any debris or anything I don't want, and then get it into the final coats of epoxy. So of course you guys know I do 2 final coats of epoxy using Amazing Clear Class Plus, and here's the final look at the cup. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. I really hope that you are able to try out some Teck Wrap Craft Vinyl. I had a blast looking at all these colors, and I can't wait to continue to use some of the packs of vinyl that I was sent. Thank you so much to Teck Wrap Craft for sending me some beautiful vinyls to be able to use and to give my product review of your products. And definitely be sure to check out my brand new pattern vinyl line at shopvinylgallery.com. Use code LishaB10 to save, and you guys know that I will see you in the next one. Bye!